It's coffee time, it's coffee time, it's the One Pot Chef drinking coffee in time. That's the crappiest intro ever. Anyway, welcome to the first edition of Coffee Time, and this is a new monthly series here on the OnePotChefBlog channel. Basically what I'll be doing is I'll be answering your questions and talking about topics that you send me. If you want to send me a question or a topic to talk about, please feel free to leave them in the comment section below and I will answer them in the next edition of Coffee Time. In the meantime, let's get started on our first set of questions. Let's have a look at. The Naked Wombat sent me a question which I already answered partially on the channel. What topics won't you discuss on your channel, and have you ever made a dish that you didn't like the taste of while recording on your chef channel? The first part I already answered on the channel, where I was saying, like, regarding topics, as long as it's nothing too controversial or anything that's like really sort of personal about my personal life or anything like that, I don't really see there being any issues. As long as they're like just normal, clean questions, I have no issue. As for having ever made a dish that I didn't like the taste of while recording, that generally doesn't happen, simply because most of the dishes that I do on the One Pot Chef Show channel are either ones that I've done several times before, or if it's something that I haven't done before, I will actually have done a dry run beforehand. I'll have actually tested the recipe to make sure it works. I generally only ever do that though if I'm doing like a special request or something like that, where it's something that I've never actually made before. So yeah, I've never really had that much of an issue. I think the only time it's ever gone horribly wrong, and the reason I sort of started doing that, was because I did this Coca-Cola chicken a couple of years ago, and there's actually a video up on the cooking channel about it, where it was one of those ones I'd never tried before, and I was going off a recipe that I'd found on the internet, and it was an absolute disaster. It was bleh. So from there on in, I've learned to sort of test things. Next question. Have you ever tried famous South European food called, burek? Burek? Thing with cream cheese in it. I'm not even sure if I'm pronouncing that right. So no, I've never tried it before. I've never actually heard of it before. So with cream cheese in it. Sounds interesting. Stephen 3X. Oh God, here we go. This will be trouble. Here are my questions. Just when exactly are you going to write that bloody cookbook anyway? Do you want the honest truth? After I mentioned that in the last question and answers video, I actually sort of tried to do the cookbook again, but I started getting more and more frustrated with it, so I kind of left it for a while. So I think once the wounds of the previous experience have gone down a bit and healed a bit, I'll definitely try again. His next question is, how many regenerations do you have left, Time Lord? Too bloody many. What is the airspeed velocity of a unladen swallow? Buy me a drink, you might find out. Bonus question. In Excess, Midnight Oil, Men at Work, Air Supply, The Bee Gees, or Olivia Newton-John? If the question is which one of them should be burnt at the stake, I'd say all of them, starting with Olivia Newton-John because she gets on my tits. Okay, next question. Tell people to subscribe to You Twitface Babe, and do you have a wife? Okay, people, subscribe to You Twitface Babe, and no, I don't have a wife. Talk about politics and how climate change is affecting the land down under. I am not going anywhere near climate change after last time. I've given my opinions on climate change in the past and I was angrily repulsed. Suffice it to say, I think that there needs to be a lot more research before they start throwing billions and billions of dollars at a problem that may or may not exist. But I'm not getting into that. I'm going to leave that one alone. Next question. What did you want to be growing up? I think I've answered this before, actually. I'm fairly certain, like, one of my earliest memories was going to preschool, and I remember going to preschool, they had this big old-style cash register, like this big metal one, and I remember it used to be the one thing that everybody wanted to play with, and I know I used to like playing with it as well, and I've always sort of had this thing about wanting to work in a shop, and I always did. Most of my working career, I did work in shops and retail environments and things like that, so I'd say that was probably the answer. Somewhere in the world you would love to go. I would love to go to Machu Picchu in Peru. I think there's just something absolutely brilliant about this gorgeous ancient stone city in the sky. I mean, it's up in the mountains, above the clouds. It's just everything I've seen of it looks absolutely gorgeous. I would love to go there. If you could have 3 wishes and only 3 wishes, what would they be? I hate wish questions. I really hate those questions simply because if I answer them with really selfish things, it makes me look selfish. If I do it with like sort of altruistic things and stuff like that and how generous to mankind, it makes me look like a wanker. So I don't know. I'm never good with wish questions. Oh, oh my God. The next one from Nico's vlog, it's not even a question as such. I want you to slurp your coffee, then look at the camera with seductive eyes and growl at me, as in grrr. Poor Jess, I don't know how she puts up with him. All right. I can't believe I just did that. Oh, jeez Louise with knobs on. Anyway, I think we'll just move on from that one. Let's see. Have you ever purchased a product from an infomercial or a department store and loved the product so much you have purchased another one of the same or recommended said product to a friend? Probably my vegetable steamer. See, about 4 years ago, I used to do I obviously do a lot of vegetables cooking and stuff like that. Everyone does. But the one thing that used to drive me nuts was that I'd have to have like 3 or 4 burners going on the stove at any one time because I'd have the carrots there and peas there and that, blah, 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 and potatoes and all that sort of stuff. And it used to create all this washing up. It was a nightmare. And I went to the local department store, Big W, and they had these electric vegetable steamers for $20. And I thought, 20 bucks, even if it's crap, it'll be like one of those impulse buy type things. And I absolutely loved it because I could chuck frozen vegetables into it. I could just chop up a potato roughly and chuck that in, turn it on for 20 minutes, and 20 minutes later it would all be perfectly cooked. And I started using it on a regular basis. It cut down my washing up like you wouldn't believe. And I actually told my dad about it because he'd been looking for one, and when I went round to his house to tell him about this steamer, he'd actually bought the same one the day before. So I'd sort of tried to convince him to buy it, but he already had one. So yeah, I love my steamer. Pocket Bite Freak 666. The winter in Australia is coming, or it's here already. Do you buy more pillows and blankets? I did buy more blankets this year, mainly because I had to throw out the old ones because they were getting a bit ratty. But generally, I've already got a big supply of blankets in the linen cupboard, so that way I don't sort of surprise myself when it gets really cold really quickly. Do you have German letters on your keyboard like... I don't know how to pronounce those letters. So I'll just show you my keyboard. Get back here, you little bitch. And so it doesn't have any of those letters, it just has the normal alphanumeric sort of English letters, I suppose they are, I don't know. But yeah, I think that you can actually type those letters. I think there's like sort of a character map on the computer where you can actually bring those letters up. A hard question. Oh, what's this hard question? What's the satellite you watch TV? In Germany, it connects to a receiver Asta 923. I have no idea. I don't know what satellite it connects to. I think it's an Optus satellite to get our satellite TV, but I'm not sure. I don't know how it works. I just turn it on and watch the shows. Do you like energy drinks? I used to, until somebody introduced me to the psychotic idea of Red Bull and vodka. Worst combination ever. It tastes fantastic, and I'll be blunt, it's one of the nicest drinks I've ever had. Problem is, it's like getting very drunk very quickly, especially if you drink like say 3 or 4 of them in an hour, because they taste like sort of a soft drink, so you don't really think about it. I had about 3 or 4 of these in an hour, and I got very, very drunk very quickly. But then it hypes you up because of all the bloody Red Bull in it. So you're sort of like going, Oh, no, never again. Next question. Where has your favourite holiday destination been? I've always loved going up to Queensland. I must admit, I'm not much of a traveller these days. I'm actually planning to go on a little sort of road trip weekend away in a couple of weeks, going out towards Bathurst and things like that, just for a bit of a road trip. But holidays, I've generally only really gone to Queensland, except for sort of overseas things when I was a kid, but they don't really count. But yeah, I always like going to the sort of theme parks and things like that. Let's see. Cooking with Karma wants to know, what was the first concert you ever went to and album you ever bought? This is embarrassing because it's really showing my age. The first album I ever bought was a album called Total Euphoria by a band called Euphoria. They were an Australian dance pop group, and you should write in the comments if you even remember Euphoria. They used to have songs like Love You Right, One in a Million. They were just... I actually rediscovered their music recently on YouTube, and it's the trashiest shit and I love it. But yeah, it's really embarrassing because it shows my age, something shocking. The first concert I ever went to was Alanis Morissette on the supposed Former Infatuation Junkie tour, and it was at Newcastle Entertainment Centre, which was in 1992. I can't remember when. It was a while back though. But yeah, it was great, although we had the worst nosebleed seats and it could have been a man in drag for all I knew on the stage because they didn't even have sort of screens up or anything like that, but it was really great. I really enjoyed that concert. It was so much fun. It was like, when you go to your first concert, you don't care if you've got crap seats because it was really exciting. So, yeah. Next question. When was the last time you went to the movies and what did you see? Last time I went to the movies was like maybe 6 months ago or something like that, and we went to go and see that god-awful vampire crap. What was it, Eclipse, or I don't know, something about Bella lying around crying and being a bitch. I don't know. I only went because they had Taylor Lautner in it, let's face it. That's such an excuse to go to a movie. Let's see, next question. How many siblings do you have and are you the oldest? I have 2 sisters and I'm the youngest. Being gay, when and how? I'm not sure if that's a question as such. I'm assuming you're asking me when I came out. I came out in year 9 at school. Or no, year 10, sorry, at school. So that would be 1996, roughly. I'm aging myself because I can't even remember now. As for how, well, buy me a drink. You'll find out. Cooking question. What does it mean on a recipe when it calls for brown sugar and it says firmly packed? Good question. Basically, when you're measuring out things like flour or white sugar, they're fairly sort of fluid powders, so they sort of come out fairly easily. Brown sugar is like all lumpy and clumped. So when it says firmly packed, it means that you've put the brown sugar into your measuring cup and you've pressed it down until it's all filled up the cup, so there's no spaces, so you just push it all the way in. That's what they mean by a firmly packed cup. What is your favourite cooking gadget that you own? Definitely my Parmesan cheese grater that my sister got me for my birthday a couple of years ago. You put the cheese in the top and it's got like a little rotary thing on it like that. It's so much easier, it's easy to clean, and you can basically have freshly grated Parmesan whenever you want without the risk of, sort of grating your hands off. So, love it. What hobbies do you have aside from cooking? Not a lot, to be honest. I don't really do a lot of hobbies as such, mainly because this is actually not a hobby anymore. It's actually what I do for a living, sort of doing cooking videos and doing these blog videos and stuff like that. And it takes up a lot of my time, but I love reading, I love movies. I don't go out a lot these days. I used to go nightclubbing. I used to run a nightclub way back when, but I don't really get into that anymore. Sort of like I found that the bar scene and sort of clubs and pubs and things like that, it's just full of people who are just so desperate to get as drunk as quickly as possible, as cheaply as possible, and it's just turned into a real degenerate mess. So not really up for going out much these days, but I love to just sort of like hang out at people's houses. We just sit around, we eat, watch movies, cause trouble, laugh, have a few drinks. It's that's what I like to do. Um, did you take your GCSE, IB, other exams when you were at school? What subjects did you take? Oh, okay. Okay, where I live in Australia, we have what's called the HSC, the Highest School Certificate, and that's the exams you take in the last year of high school or before you graduate. Um, I took, let me think now, business studies, I did visual art, I did, I took general science because I didn't want to do physics because I'm just crap at maths, and I actually, using a loophole, dropped maths in the end of year 10, so I didn't have to do maths for year 11 or 12, mainly because I figured there was no point in doing a subject that I was utterly crap at and was just failing miserably. I was always the bottom of the class because I'm just no head for numbers. But I ended up picking up a course called General Studies to replace it. And I can honestly say I have no idea what General Studies was actually about because it seemed to be sort of like, it was almost like if they did a class based on the Gruen transfer where they just sit around talking about television ads and things like that. It was really fun though. Those are the subjects I did. I probably did more, but I did computer studies as well. God, we're talking a very long time since I've been in high school, so I'm having difficulty remembering. But yeah, those were the major subjects I did. What's your favourite TV series, past or present? I've got lots of favourites. I don't know if I have a single favourite. I think I've said before, I love Doctor Who, the old series and the new series, the old series especially. Big fan of Buffy. I loved Buffy. Liked Angel, didn't like as much as Buffy. Loved Firefly, Dollhouse, all the Joss Whedon stuff. He's a brilliant writer. I loved Gilmore Girls. I miss Gilmore Girls. That was such a well-written and funny and genuinely entertaining show. What else have we got? I don't know. I've recently started watching the US version of Big Brother. I got some DVDs sent to me recently of the US version and I love it. I'm addicted. It's like Survivor in a house. It's brilliant. I don't know. Any cooking show with Nigella on it. Seriously, it's Food Porn Central. Any of those series. So yeah, I don't know if I can pick just one. So there you go. Secret Justin asks, what does secret mean to you? Secret means that if you tell me something and you tell me it's a secret, I won't tell anyone, unless of course it is extremely juicy and very good, in which case I will just not tell anybody until you leave the room and then I'll tell everyone. Not really. Coffee. Elixir of the gods. So Freaking Legit asks, quesadillas, tacos or burritos, and do you enjoy eating international food? First part, I would say quesadillas. I love quesadillas. I've almost always got a packet of tortillas in the cupboard waiting to be used. And I just love the fact that you can basically, as long as you've got at least cheese, you can pretty much chuck anything else on it. Put it in the fry pan and make your quesadilla and it's delicious. It's like the best ever snack. Tacos I've never been a major fan of. And burritos, sort of, I do like them, but like they're just a bit messy. So I like my quesadillas. Do you enjoy eating international food? Well, I kind of, yes, because like it's pretty much, in Australia, it's a really strange way of putting it, because Australian, we don't like have like traditional Australian food here really, beyond sort of witchetty grubs and crap like that, is that most of the food that's served in Australia comes from other countries anyway, because we're a fairly multicultural society. So we've got lots and lots of different food that comes from different places, very heavily influenced by Southeast Asia, because we've got lots of Chinese food, Thai food, Malaysian food, Indonesian food, all that sort of stuff. Plus, of course, you've got all these sort of McDonald's and crap like that. Yeah, so there's I love international food. I don't cook a lot of international food. I try to sort of stick to what they call traditional food, home style food. Like it's mostly heavily inspired by British immigrants, so that's the kind of food I generally stick to. But gotta love Chinese food though. Everyone loves Chinese food. Uh, what are some of the must-see venues in Australia that an American tourist should not miss? Oh God, there's so many. If you're in Sydney, absolutely you need to go and stand on the steps of the Sydney Opera House. You need to go and have a look at the Sydney Harbour Bridge. You can even climb on top of it. I think Oprah did it. And you get the most incredible view ever. I just hope you're not sort of scared of heights. Going up to the Blue Mountains and seeing the Three Sisters. There's these giant sort of rock formations. The Jenolan Caves, if you love sort of these gorgeous underground limestone caverns, the Jenolan Caves are a must-see. Uluru, of course, which is the new name for Ayers Rock. It's what used to be called Ayers Rock and it's now called Uluru. I don't know, there's heaps. There's too many to name, but there's a few. I recommend going to the Jenolan Caves, though. Next one. Have you seen any more UFOs? Not since the last one. I honestly still have no idea what the hell it was. I just thought sort of like, it's in the sky and it's flying and I don't know what it is. It's a UFO. So that's why I put it up as that. Talk about your family if you are okay with that. I like the Planet of the Apes movie trailer that played before your video. Okay. I was going to say, where are you going with Planet of the Apes and my family? But okay. There's not much to say about my family. I mean, my father lives just down the road, so I get to go and see him every couple of days or so, sort of check to see he's doing okay. Most of you know my mother died a few years ago from cancer. I've got two sisters, one who lives locally and one that lives up in Queensland. I don't get to see and hear from her as much as I'd like to, but big hugs if she's watching this. My local sister Anne, you've probably seen her in one or two of videos on my blog channel, sort of if you've seen things around at my father's place. She's a troublemaker, but I love her. I don't know what else to say. Pretty ordinary family. What movies do you like? I love all sorts of movies. I've actually got this giant rack of DVDs downstairs. It's just hundreds of the bloody things. Trying to think. I don't like modern movies much, like the movies that are coming out of the cinema these days, because most of them kind of come across as just this cheap sort of rubbish, because they always come across as the kind of thing that they're clearly made for a short-term profit. They're not actually designed for like long-term watchability. So I try to avoid those. I like the older style movies. Love Thelma and Louise. I used to have it on DVD and then I broke it. Keep meaning to replace that. Love all the old style comedies from the 1940s and 50s. All of those sort of films. I love all sorts of kinds, and I love all the sort of big sort of budget action films and things like that. I'm kind of a weird sort of all over the place sort of movie connoisseur. What country is your food paradise? Like, which place would you want to go? Italy. Absolutely. I would scrub myself stupid in Italy. I could just imagine having freshly made pasta, made with actual pasta, not like sort of dried stuff and things like that, and homemade pizza made the traditional Italian way. Oh, I'd love it. So it'd be my idea of food paradise. The decoy asks, when is hammer time? I don't understand that question. When is hammer time? When it's time to have a hammer, I suppose. Over here in Holland, we have a morning show on the telly that's called OnePotChefBlog, Coffee Time. I'm sorry, I have the worst Dutch accent in history. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. The show isn't great, but I thought it'd be fun to share this with you. Now, my question, what kitchen tool you can't be without and what ingredient you always have in stock? Big hugs from Monica. Well, Monica, kitchen tool I can't be without. Got to be wooden spoons. I have like about 4 or 5 wooden spoons and they get a constant workout because I need them because I do a lot of stovetop cooking. So if I don't have them, all hell breaks loose. what ingredient you always have in stock. Probably rice more than anything else, because I figure that sort of no matter what you've got in the cupboard or you happen to have in the fridge, rice will always help to expand that meal slightly. So it's very easy to cook, and it's nice and filling if you're sort of like getting towards the end of the week and you're running out of stuff in the fridge. So helps to sort of stretch meals out. So I've always got rice in the cupboard. What's your first memory? Tell us one thing about your best friend. My first memory, it should be noted I have a neurological problem which actually affects my memory, and I have difficulty remembering what happened yesterday. So my first memory, you've got bugger all chance of getting to. I don't really remember. I'm trying to think, and I'm not really sure. I too long ago, sometime soon, I think. Tell us one great thing about your best friend. That one I can answer. Miss T, I won't use her real name because she doesn't like to have her real name online. But Miss T, you've probably seen her in one or two of my videos on the cooking channel. She's sometimes hides in the background doing taste testing. Let's see. She has got to be one of the most loving people I've ever met. She is literally full of love, and I think that's probably the best thing about her, is that sort of no matter what is going on in her life, what is going on in other people's lives, no matter what, the first thing that is on her mind is love. Her love for her children, her love for her friends and her family, that is the overriding sense in her life. So that's one thing about her. Can you describe Nico in 5 words? Yes, I can. Am I allowed to use swear words? No. I don't know. Nico in 5 words. Good mate. Doesn't cook better than me. Oh, that's 7. Oh, okay. I'll get kicked for that. I don't know. He's a good mate, and I love him to bits. It's such a shame we live so far away. I would love to sort of go around to his house and, you know, put salt in his dishes. just so I can catch up to him. Spring King 78 wants to know, how come you use more than one pot? This is an old question. The reason I actually called the channel the One Pot Chef Show was because I was initially going to do a lot of cooking videos using a slow cooker. Obviously just chuck everything into one pot and switch it on. And I gave up on the idea before I even started on it because there's only a limited number of things you can really do in a slow cooker beyond soups and stews and things like that. So I figured that if I was restricting myself to that sort of one narrow topic, I wasn't going to have much variety in what I could do on the channel. So I dropped the idea, but I kept the name because I'd already created the account, I'd already uploaded a video already, so I just sort of left it from there. So any sort of rumours about it being some kind of drug reference are complete rubbish. Well, the only drug is my coffee these days. And a few other things that will keep off videos. No, that's not true. Way to sound like a drug-fucked slut. I'll have to bleep that out if I remember. No, I don't do drugs. Drugs are bad. Coffee is my only drug these days. How much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? Heaps. Next one. Do you have any tips for taking care of non-stick pots and pans to keep them from chipping and peeling? Oh, God, I love this coffee. My tip is to clean the pot as soon as possible after using it. So don't let it sit there and have, like, let's say you've made, like, I don't know, some casserole or something in it that's empty and you've ate it. Don't let it sit there and the stuff dry on it, because it makes it more difficult to get it off, even though it's supposedly non-stick. You should rinse it off immediately in the sink. Use a plastic brush. Don't use like a scourer or any of those sort of scrubbing pads or anything like that, because that will kill the surface as well. And yeah, just sort of, yeah, clean as you go is usually the best way to keep them in reasonable condition. How do you spend your Christmas? Well, because it's Australia and we have Christmas in the middle of summer, so it's really hot, we don't have at least in my family, we don't do the traditional hot food as such. We actually have the turkey and pork and things like that. But what we do is we actually cook it the day before and then serve it cold for lunch. And we'll have like hot veggies like your roast potatoes and things like that. But we have lots of salads and we have the Christmas pudding, though to be honest, only like maybe three people out of our family actually eat the Christmas pudding. But I love my Christmas pudding, and I love it fried after Christmas because I'm a bad person who was badly influenced by my mother. Yeah, so that's how we spend Christmas. We all get together around at my dad's place. We have lunch. We have copious amounts of bubbly drinks. We start screaming and yelling at each other, as is Christmas tradition, and then we all go home and do it all again the next day. No, not true. No, it's lots of fun. I'm going to stop reading these usernames. Deb NGP, I think it is. I am deciding on gas or electric for my kitchen. Most chefs cook on gas. What is your preference? I would kill you and every other person on this planet for a gas stove. I have not had a gas stove in over 5 years, and I miss it like you would not believe. I've had nothing but electric stoves since I left my first place down in, 5 years ago I think it was. But yeah, gas is brilliant because it's instant heat. You don't have to wait for the electric ring to heat up. Just boiling a pot of water on an electric stove can just make you want to tear your hair out, because if you do it on a gas stove, it's boiling in a minute or two. You do it on an electric stove, you could be sitting there for 20 minutes. So if you've got the option to get a gas stove, please get one. Was there a Julia Child and Agatha Christie connection? What is your best... What? Okay, these are multiple questions, so I'm going to go through this one at a time. Was there a Julia Child and Agatha Christie connection? I've no idea. I'm not sure what that question means. What is the best meal for an expedition to the North Pole? I've heard that if you're going somewhere really cold and isolated, you should take lots of candy bars because it's instant energy. Did Graham the Galloping Gourmet have a favourite cocktail? I would assume he did, although I have no idea who Graham the Galloping Gourmet is. Why is Native American salmon so good? I don't know, because they've been through hell already? I have no idea. Are illegal 2-biter Florida crayfish better than Maine with claws lobsters? Again, I have no idea. I don't live in the US, so I've got no idea. I'm going to say yay to Florida crayfish because, I don't know, Florida for the win. I have no idea. God, these questions get obscure. What are your pantry must-haves, basics you always have on hand? Oh, we've already touched on that slightly. I always have rice. Cans of soup. Things like tomato soup, cream of chicken, cream of mushroom, mainly because I've never used them for soup as such. I always use them as recipe bases. You can use them to help add richness to a casserole, especially tomato soup. You can mix it with a little bit of cream or some milk and add in pasta and tuna, and you've got a tuna bake ready to go. They're great for that sort of stuff. Always have pasta on hand because, let's face it, all you've got to do is boil pasta and chuck a sauce on and you've got a meal. Yeah. Next question, Fio Dental. Have you ever tried any Portuguese recipes? I haven't cooked any. Portuguese chicken has become very popular in Australia. They make piri-piri chicken all over the place in Australia. It's become very popular. I'm not really that fussed on it because I don't like stuff that's got sort of too much chili, too much of a kick to it. But yeah, peri-peri chicken is very popular. I don't know a lot of Portuguese recipes, to be honest, but that's one that seems to have sort of kicked in recently. Have you heard about Malta? We would very much like to host you here if you ever decide to visit. There is a Maltese community in Australia too. Yes, there is. I've heard of Malta. I used to actually work with a guy who was from Malta. He was a big muscle guy. He used to own the nightclub I used to run many years ago. And I remember it was really funny because he was straight and he used to run a gay nightclub. He owned a gay nightclub and I used to sort of manage it and help organise stuff. And he always found it incredibly funny that he was straight and he was owning this gay nightclub and sort of that's just the way some things go. And his mother came all the way out from Malta to visit. and he absolutely insisted that she get to come along to the nightclub to see her son at work and doing all this stuff. And he was panicking about how she was going to react to this gay nightclub. And I still remember today as if it were yesterday. It was the funniest thing, where this little old Maltese lady is sitting on this leather sofa surrounded by 4 drag queens who were absolutely filling her with cocktails, and all you could see was her cracking up like you wouldn't believe. She was laughing her head off. And I don't think she had a clue what was going on, because the drag queens thought she was just hysterical and they were just chucking cocktails down. So yeah, I love Maltese people. What's the best and worst part of cooking at large? Well, I suppose the best part is you've always got something to eat. That's always a good sign. The worst part's probably the washing up. I know doing cooking on a regular basis here on the One Pot Chef show is the washing up is extraordinary, and I try to sort of get it done as I'm sort of filming at the same time, like in between filming breaks, but it can be a bastard. Aussie Griller asks a question that I don't understand. Do you have any grey poupon? Poupon? Pupas? I don't understand what that question is, mate. What do you have any grey poupon? No idea. What is the worst mistake you have done in your cooking? Probably when I was experimenting making the chocolate pie it must have been a year or so ago at least now, where I was trying to come up with a perfect chocolate pie recipe, and it was just a disaster one after the other. And I remember the worst one was when I tried to do a chocolate meringue pie, and it turned into a pie crust with chocolate soup with meringue on top. It was just foul. So that was one of the worst ones I've done for a long time. Thank God I finally found a better recipe that was a bit more adaptable and it actually worked perfectly, and that's the one I ended up uploading to YouTube. Have you ever been to America? Where in America would you most like to visit? I've never been to America. I would love to go to New York City, mainly because it's kind of like a food mecca these days, where every kind of food you can imagine they sell in New York City. I would love to go on a bit of a foodies tour, going around sort of like all these fantastic places. I'd love to have a New York hot dog. You see them on TV all the time. People seem to think they're fantastic. I would love to try one for myself. I'd also love to go to the south of America. I'd love to sort of see all that sort of old style cooking, fried chicken and cornbread and all that sort of stuff, like being made sort of in the old style fashion. That would be fantastic. I don't know, there's so many places in America. America's a big place. I'd love to go there and sort of see all those sort of things. Have you ever thought of opening your own cafe or coffee shop? I did several years ago, actually. I did consider actually getting a business loan and opening up a cafe, but the amount of money it was going to cost to set it up, and at the time, opening a business for myself just wasn't really an option at the time. So I did seriously consider it, actually. I really did sort of like the idea of doing it, but there were a lot of factors at the time that kind of stopped me from doing it. But it's something I wouldn't mind doing in the future, perhaps. Don't know. See how we go. And with that, we are at the end of this edition of Coffee Time. So I hope you've enjoyed this little insight into my complete insanity. As I said before, if you've got a question or a topic you'd like me to discuss in the next edition of Coffee Time, please leave it in the description. Leave it in the description. Leave it in the comments below. And until next time, I shall see you out there. All right. Love you guys. Bye.